Sergio Perez had a strong start to the 2022 Formula 1 season, giving teammate Max Verstappen a hard time in the early stages of the year. But from the Canadian Grand Prix onwards, things have become more difficult for Perez. He has slipped back into his expected number 2 role and fallen away in the World Championship fight. Perez says this is because, as he put it, car development is going away from me. This has made the car less comfortable for him to drive, while teammate Max Verstappen has thrived. While Perez can't be entirely counted out of the title fight, he's now a massive 57 points behind Verstappen. And while he has secured himself a new 2-year deal that will keep him at the team until the end of 2024, he's very much back in a supporting role. So how much have Perez's performance slipped compared to Verstappen? Why has this happened? And can Red Bull be blamed for deliberately making life difficult for Perez? Before we get into exactly what has changed, let's first look at how Perez's performances have shifted. Perez outqualified Verstappen 3 times in the first 8 races, outpacing him in Saudi Arabia, Monaco and Azerbaijan. That still put him 5-3 down in the head-to-head comparison with Verstappen, but bear in mind that prior to Perez taking the first of those 3 qualifying victories in Saudi Arabia, Verstappen was only outqualified by a teammate 3 times in the preceding 62 races, stretching back to late 2018. Perez admits he struggled in qualifying over the last 3 race weekends. 2 of those sessions in Canada and Britain were rain affected, while in Austria, Perez had his Q3 and best Q2 time deleted for a track limits infraction. He has also struggled on race pace, which stretches back to Baku. There, Perez was quicker in qualifying, but Verstappen caught him, overtook him and then pulled away with ease. But in the races before that, Perez performed very well, was twice subject to team orders to let Verstappen past in Barcelona, and only lost the lead in Saudi Arabia thanks to a poorly timed safety car that was deployed immediately after his pit stop. Perez's recent struggles were made even worse by his retirement from the Austrian Grand Prix. This was a result of being hit by George Russell at turn 4 on the opening lap of the race, after which Perez battled significant damage before eventually retiring. Perez's recent struggles dropped into 3rd in the standings, 57 points behind Verstappen. He still has aspirations of being a title threat rather than simply being Red Bull's number 2, but his recent numbers haven't been good enough. The question is, why? Despite the constraints of the cost cap, Red Bull has brought a stream of upgrades through the season. Most recently, this included modifications to the side pods and engine cover at Silverstone. Obviously, the car developments are all about improving the performance. In simple terms, that's about increasing the downforce levels and improving the balance. Ahead of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in June, Verstappen explained that Perez was more comfortable with the car than in 2021. But Verstappen also wanted the Red Bull to have a stronger front end. This means Red Bull has been working not just on increasing the overall load, but specifically for the front end. The 2022 cars struggle for front-end aero load at lower speeds, something not helped by the understeer characteristic of the 18-inch Pirelli tyres. Particularly on the street tracks, Perez was often more effective than Verstappen in getting the most out of these car traits. But achieving a stronger front end is not just about the pure aero load. Another important factor is control of the aero centre of pressure. Find a way to move it further forward when the car is braking, and the car will be pointier at corner entry for slower corners. This is helped by engineering in a little extra rake, which Red Bull appeared to achieve in Canada. That's consistent with Verstappen saying in response to a question from the race at Silverstone that the car is now in a much better window for him. As Verstappen's performances have improved, so things have become more difficult for Perez by comparison. Since winning in Monaco, then out-qualifying Verstappen in Baku, Perez has struggled thanks to what he interprets as greater rear-end instability compared to the more understeery characteristics of the car earlier in the season. This echoes the problems Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon had in previous seasons with a car that Verstappen was able to be very quick in, but that they found more difficult to drive. Even at Silverstone, where Perez was second and well ahead, that was only because Verstappen was hobbled by picking up debris. So why has Red Bull seemingly gone out of its way to make life difficult for Perez? As always in F1, when the development direction favours one driver over another, it's not necessarily a case of favouritism. Red Bull argues that this development direction is the one that delivers the increased performance. A more pointy car, provided the rear end is controllable and predictable, will generally be quicker through and out of a corner than a more understeer limited one, given the driver can more proactively induce the required rotation. And remember, driving a racing car fast is all about rotating the car through the corner in the most efficient way possible. Verstappen's ability to make the most of a car with such characteristics, which many drivers do struggle with, is one of his strengths. Effectively, developing the car in this direction widens the performance envelope, which will increase pace provided the driver can dance on the edge of it consistently. But it does make life more difficult for Perez. As Red Bull chief engineer Paul Monaghan has explained, Verstappen has simply been better at adapting. It is in the team's interest to ensure both drivers get the most out of the car, but it stands to reason that as it has a driver in Verstappen capable of living with characteristics some interpret as more difficult or oversteery, it makes sense to use them. The car is fundamentally quicker, and Verstappen is able to access that pace with the front-end limitation removed. While terms like understeer and oversteer are thrown around as absolutes, it's important to remember different drivers can respond in different ways to the same balance. To a driver like Verstappen, the current car will feel better balanced compared to the understeery car of the earlier stages of the season. Perez, by contrast, saw that earlier season car as well balanced, and this one as more unstable at the rear and less confidence inspiring. It's in Red Bull's interest to make Perez more comfortable in the car. This is a challenge both for Perez and the engineering team. As Monaghan has pointed out, Perez's form in the early part of the season was impressive, and he's continuing to do a good job for the team. What Perez is experiencing is what many drivers in top teams who are up against great drivers have struggled with: a combination of the laws of physics and a teammate who can extract the higher potential performance of a livelier car.